How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt. That is Shawn, and welcome to the show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the international travel ban that was just lifted as of 3 days ago, and that is causing waves in a couple different markets. We'll talk about how it affects the DC market as well as the real estate industry as a whole. Speaking of the DC market, the DC area home prices reached an all-time high in October. I'm almost tired of saying that the market, it's kind of like a tired headline. We're going to touch on that and see if maybe this is the last month where we've reached an all-time high. More on that. And then we're going to finish it off with a Jeff Bezos backed real estate app that is now accepting Bitcoin as payments for a Latin America, different than South America, or maybe it's all the same. Wow, terrible. Showing my ignorance. Basically, you can buy properties in Mexico and Colombia using Bitcoin with a very easy-to-use portal. So we'll touch on that as well.
Right there, yeah.
Let's start the show with a couple different articles coming to us from KRON4 out of San Francisco. Real estate agents prepare for return of foreign buyers as travel ban ends. So maybe you saw in the news the heartwarming stories of families that literally have been separated for a very long time, have now been reunited as the United States is allowing international travelers back into the United States. And what that means for the real estate market is now buyers from China, buyers from Asia, buyers from Europe are now welcomed back with open arms back into the market, especially in the New York and Miami markets, where basically all foreign purchases in the United States plummeted about 27% from April 2020 to March 2021. So a couple thoughts here. First of all, the real estate market has been humming along without the foreign buyers. Mm-hmm. However, I'm not as well versed in the ultra high-end market, Shawn. So what are your thoughts on the international buyers coming back in? How are they going to navigate this new market with much less inventory? And then how are they going to navigate this ultra luxury market?
Yeah, I mean, think about this. While they were gone, while they were not investing, we had our best real estate ever, our best real estate year ever. And so they're coming back and probably to a lot higher prices. But not only that, they're coming back and they're going to force another real estate boom, right? I would think that, especially like in these markets you're talking about in Florida, South Florida, and in New York, that a lot of their business is based on foreign investors. And so just to see this flood now, all of a sudden, it's going to be tough for everybody. And, it's funny. It's like, you always think, I've always dreamed of buying in South Florida. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I could, or should have now, should have, could have, would have, because these prices have skyrocketed and they're only going to keep going, especially in the Miami area. How are they going to navigate? I mean, These are pretty hefty investors. They've got cash, and so they're used to throwing around the cash. And I think that it's not going to phase them much as far as a 10 or 15, 20% increase in value over the last year. They're not going to really worry about that. They're ready to get in, and I think they're hungry.
Broker Enzo Rosanio, a partner with Barnes International Miami, works primarily with European clients, and he said in the article, buyers are coming to South Florida all at once, air quotes, now that the ban has been lifted. He's been prepping them by finding short-term rentals and setting up showings and appointments at sales centers. His clients are looking at the $700,000 to $2 million marking up. And that's not necessarily like an ultra high end. We're not talking about like 432 Park or like Billionaires Row in New York City. Like, if you're looking at a $700,000 condo in Miami, that's a lot of people that might be looking at that. And the article goes on to say that the market is super intense right now. Inventory is low. Europeans hate bidding wars. As soon as they feel rushed, it's a turnoff, says Rossani. So they might be in for a rude awakening, depending on what happens in the fall market. When does the winter market start? Is that after Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I mean, I would say yeah, but I mean, it doesn't matter. I think fall, winter, the market's
It's all
not
the
really
same.
good. Yeah, it's slowing down here, and you know, I wonder, is that the buying time in Florida? Though?
But
Because
it's slowing down. But is this gonna pick it back up? Because if luxury sales, if these sales drop, let me just say, foreign purchases of U.S. homes plummeted 27% compared to the previous year.
Yeah.
So if 27% is down, and now you're opening up that pie, how is that going to affect the current market?
Yeah, it's got to affect it in a positive upwards trend, right? And so they're here, they're coming. I mean, it was just lifted a couple of days ago, and you were telling me the story about a building here, right?
Yeah, in Arlington, a new construction building just got 3 new, inquiries from, Asian, Chinese, buyers, and the sales agent was like, I just got these 3, Asian buyers just out of the blue. I'm like, well, it wasn't necessarily out of the blue because it happened 2 days ago. The travel ban was lifted 3 days ago. So I think there's going to be a direct correlation to foreign purchasers ticking up. I don't know. I mean, everything changed in 2020, right? So I don't know how the foreign buyers are going to react to this new market, because the article also says that, they want to touch and feel things, and maybe they're, stir crazy to actually go out and tour some of these properties.
Yeah, and I wonder, does this affect more the condo market or the single-family home market? Because you think about Miami, New York, this is mainly condos, right? And so where we have seen, and maybe this kind of segments us into our next kind of thing, but the condo market is a little slower. So maybe that's going to boost that condo market, because I would think that most foreign investors are going towards that route, right? It's easier to maintain. The upkeep's easier. And so hopefully, and what we've seen as a trend in the United States is a lot of people have moved out of the city areas and gone for more space outside of into the suburbs. But maybe this trend will, cause that all to change.
It's definitely condo centered. And touching on the New York City markets, the arrival of the international buyers comes as the Manhattan market is on fire. However, the supply remained higher than usual. Stan Ponte with Sotheby's International Realty says that the return of foreign buyers could be the perfect piece of the puzzle to help with this, help soak up the inventory.
That's exactly what I was thinking and hoping for our area as well. I mean, we've seen a lot of, the single family market is one thing, and then the condo market is a whole different realm. And so hopefully that causes, because we see investors here as well. We see foreign investors here, but not as much as New York and Miami, but we definitely see them here. So hopefully that spurs our condo market a little more.
We'll be interested to see how that affects the local DC market, but I think it's certainly going to affect New York City, Miami, places where people want to park some money.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's go into the next article. It's from Washingtonian. DC area home prices hit new records in October. Compared to last year, local real estate market has continued to calm down. So there were a few different, this is a short article from Washingtonian. I'll list and link it if you're watching on YouTube. Short article, a few pieces of key numbers I want to go through. First of all, median price for all housing types in DC proper, $705, which is a record high. City of Falls Church. By the way, if I say I'm in Falls Church, where do you think? Like, are you thinking Seven Corners? Are you thinking City of Falls Church? Are you thinking Bailey's Crossroads? Are you thinking the Falls Church neighborhood of Fairfax?
Yeah, well, say I used to live in Falls Church, right? And I lived in Lake Barcroft, but that's not the City of Falls Church. So when they're talking about Falls Church, I would always presume or assume that it's City of Falls Church.
But like, if someone's just in conversation, this is off tangent.
I always put myself where I lived, right?
Yeah.
But,
so if I said, "Oh, I'm in Falls Church," you're like, "Oh, he was in Lake Barcroft."
No, not necessarily, because usually you kind of go towards the city center, right? So like, all right, he's in Falls Church, so he's probably over. But that's interesting.
I had a conversation with someone recently, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Falls Church," and in my head I was thinking the city of Falls Church, and she was thinking like somewhere like completely different, which we were both correct. But
because there's the City of Falls Church, and then there's Fairfax County Falls Church, so that's it'll screw you up.
So the city of Falls Church also achieved a record median price for single-family homes, detached 1.53.
That is amazing to me.
1.53.
1.53 as a median. That's huge. But here's the thing: the city is small, and so There's not too many, and there's a lot of flipping. There's builders coming in there and just new construction over and over again. So that's pushing these prices. We've seen the new construction prices, 1.8s, 1.9s into 2 millions. So like, that's going to push that median price, and there's just not a ton. So you think about Falls Church. I sold one a couple of years ago in the 9s. That thing's easily worth 1.3 now, 1.2, 1.3. It's just boomed. For real.
Yeah, and people talk about the taxes in the city of Falls Church. Now, if you're buying a $1.5 million house in the city of Falls Church compared to North Arlington, like, what is the comp for? Is the comp for North Arlington like 1.3, 1.4 compared to a 1.5 house in city of Falls Church?
No, I don't think it's that much. I don't know exactly. I used to, but I would say, you're probably in about $100,000 difference if the taxes.
I'm just curious to know, like, at what point does it affect, like, oh, the taxes are too high versus going to another jurisdiction?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, when I was looking at new construction, I looked in Vienna for a while, and the Vienna taxes, when it comes down to it, it's a few $100s here and there per month or something. But man, when I got reassessed on my taxes, that pushed my payment, honestly, $600 a month. When I got reassessed, it was nuts. So prepare for that if you're buying a new home or if you're buying a renovation property.
So we should be clear. Shawn bought a renovation property, so it was assessed. It
was originally assessed at $1 million.
Okay.
Right before I bought it, but then it was renovated, and I bought it for more than that, and then the assessment came in higher than I bought it for. So it went from basically.
So that's like the perfect storm of increase. So I'm guessing you knew that it was going to go up, but maybe you didn't know it was going to go up that much.
True. That's a true statement there.
So rounding out a couple more numbers, I think it's going to be helpful for you guys. Median for all types of houses in the entire DC metro area, 535, a 7% increase from October 2020. And here's what I really want to get into. Condos were the exception, guys. October median, a 340, a slight dip from last year's 342. The bigger picture, because prices don't get affected until this one thing that I'm about to touch on gets affected, which is supply, Shawn. There are a lot of condos on the market, and in October, there was a 4.6 month supply of condos on the market, which is an astronomical amount. Keep in mind, the past couple months there have been like a 1 month supply of all housing properties, like a 1.5 month supply of all housing properties in Arlington. So the fact that there is a 4.6 month supply on DC metro area condos.
That means it's skewing the numbers because the single families are so low and the condos.
Well, it tells me a couple things. One, opportunity for buyers, and two, you might have to be a little more patient as a seller because it can be difficult to price some of these units because we're at the point where prices are still pretty high. Condos are slowing down, so you may price it at the most recent comp, but meanwhile, the active properties are accruing days on market, and in reality, those comps were from a much different era.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Even this article, it's saying October. Well, we're in November. I mean, these markets change very quickly, and we're going into the slower times, right? We're November, December, January is going to be slow. So if you're putting your property on, especially on a condo, it's going to be a slower market. And this goes everywhere, right? So we're talking about. I was at a property showing it for clients out. They live out of state, and so I talked to the listing agent. Went through the property, really cool waterfront property, and just talking to him, he's like, I'm kind of disappointed because I only had like 6 showings over the weekend, and I'm like, all right, well, that's what I expected. I thought that the showings are going to be lower, even on a nice waterfront property like that. So, what we're seeing is instead of a couple months ago when we were seeing 15, 20 stupid contracts on one property, we're seeing 1, 2, 3, right? So the amount of buyers has come down. I think that's all going to change in 3 months when everybody gets their pre-approvals together and they all want to jump in at the same time. So if you're thinking of buying, buy now. I'm telling you, buy now between now and January, and then you're going to be in bidding wars heavily again. But that goes into the condo market, right? So the condos, there's a lot on the market, and Matt and I are usually talking a half a month supply, right? Before all this stuff started going crazy, we were always running on a half a month supply. Now we're running on a 4.5 month supply. So what does that tell you? That's insane. That's a lot. And that's probably more than I've seen since maybe the 2008-9 timeframe. You know, I don't even know what it was back then, but this is definitely the highest I've seen in a long time.
It's interesting for condos specifically how we were so hot and now we're so slow. We haven't really had like a middle ground.
It's going to come back,
like
and that's the thing. Is it always does. You know, just like everything that we see, it's going to come back, and it's going to come back, I think, slowly.
Can it come back slowly? Because I'm trying to get like 2 offers. Like I don't want like 20 offers.
I don't either. I don't care about that. I just want it to sell in a normal time frame, you know? And yeah, 1-2 offers is amazing. Can it come back? All the numbers are still there for us to come back.
It will.
And it will. It's going to take confidence, just like the foreign buyers coming back. Then all the workers go back and everything kind of starts churning again. And you're going to find yourself probably in bidding wars, you know, in the next 2 years, maybe, as far as the condos go. We're going to start weaning those out. The good properties are always going to sell. So prepare your house, prepare your condos, take the time to prepare it. That's another thing, is like, don't just throw it on the market. Take the time to prepare it, because if you throw it on the market and you're not prepared, you're just going to sit. Right? We'll
have to do a winter real estate market preview, or a 2022. Is that the year coming up? 2022 market preview, like maybe next week or in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I will say that I walked by the Deloitte office on the way to the gym, and there are more and more people in khakis and blue button-down shirts. Yeah. The consultants are coming back, so the world is healing itself. Okay, so let's move on to the third topic. This comes to us from Bloomberg. Bezos-backed real estate app to accept Bitcoin as payment. Haus starts taking crypto for Latin America home purchases. Bitcoin rally has pushed the market value above $1.2 trillion for Bitcoin. So essentially, this is an app, a website where you can go online and search for houses in a couple different Latin American, South American markets like Mexico City, and Colombia, Bogota, Medellin, cities like that. And essentially, the whole premise is it's breaking down walls. It's breaking down borders. It's breaking down barriers of entry, because before it would be borderline impossible to purchase a property in Mexico. You can do it. You can go down to Mexico. I'm not even going to pretend like I'm an expert in purchasing properties in Mexico, but now what you can do is go on an easy-to-use portal that's in English, look at the prices. They're in pesos. You can easily convert it to Bitcoin or US dollars, and access not only single-family houses, but condos, apartments, and even new developments or vacation properties, which is something really cool, Shawn. So what are your thoughts on Bitcoin becoming the primary payment method?
So this is really, really cool stuff. And I want to kind of take a step back, because what I read about this article, and I had to kind of grasp, all right, so it's an app. So how are they doing this? What I learned was that Mexico doesn't have, Latin America as a whole doesn't have a centralized database. They don't have an MLS that Zillow is pulling from, right? That Zillow steals from. No, they don't have anything like that. So what they have now is Haus. Haus was started by a group of guys that started getting a database together. And so now you can actually search just like you could on Zillow, but in Latin America. And now you can actually just purchase from that app with Bitcoin. So not only is this app accepting Bitcoin, but it's also getting a platform for everyone to use and purchase, because there was no access like that. Even public access to housing was tough. So it's really a groundbreaker.
A few pieces of key information. So the app was actually started in 2017, operates in 10 cities in Colombia and Mexico, and it actually does focus on the new housing developments. And Shawn, there have been more than $1 billion worth of annual gross transactions carried out over the app, and there's more than 1 million monthly users. It's raised over $150 million in equity and debt from investors, including Jeff Bezos and a couple other venture capitalist firms. It plans to expand across every major city in Colombia and Mexico by year's end, and across Latin America thereafter. So we saw that earlier this year. El Salvador was the first country to accept Bitcoin as legal tender. So now that's expanding even more to, I don't think technically, Mexico accepts Bitcoin, but I'm sure through the app you pay in Bitcoin, they convert to pesos, and everything's above board.
Yeah, and it's all coming. I mean, it's everything's going to transition to this. Everything is barrier to entry, like you were saying before. You're pushing that barrier away and allowing people to actually purchase houses in a normal sense, and through an app, which is crazy. You don't necessarily need a real estate agent. I don't know. I wonder how their closing is, right? They don't have records like that. So, all right, do you actually own it? That could be a scary thing. If they don't have that chain of title, or I don't know. I don't know how that works down there.
Well, a lot of people have used it, over $1 billion for the transaction.
Yeah, so I guess it's there.
Someone's buying and someone's selling.
Yeah.
The company Haus is basically acting as an intermediary and then paying the sellers from that.
Yeah,
so.
And they were saying, it's saving so much paperwork, and there's no paperwork as far as that goes, because it's all done straight through the app. Just like we were saying with blockchain title. There should be a blockchain title company.
It's
probably
1,000% will be. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah,
I am very bullish on crypto and international purchases. I'm very curious to see where this leads to.
Yeah, I agree. I gotta get in, man. I keep. Let's not go into Bitcoin.
I just think if there's a way to have everyone in the world on the same payments and have an easy way to access other properties.
Yep.
Because if you think about like buying a property in Mexico or buying a property in Colombia, that it sounds very difficult on the onset, but if
everybody
there's
knows,
a blockchain, if
right.
there's if it's tokenized, if the title is through the blockchain, and you don't have to deal with maybe some government things in South America and Latin America, then I think everyone wins.
Yeah, universal currency, making it easy for everybody. That's why Bitcoin and all these cryptocurrencies have so far to grow even now, right? Because they're just being introduced as national currency in some countries. So just it'll keep going, right? And it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then the value is going to keep going. And now we see it at 64,000 this week.
This is how you write a title of an article. You put Jeff Bezos' name in it, and you put Bitcoin in it, and that thing is going to get a lot of clicks.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I will list and link this article along with the other two articles that we talked about in the description below. So if you do have any comments, questions, definitely drop them down in the comment section. Hit the thumbs up button if you haven't already. And for Shawn and myself, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.